Hello, dear all. My name is Janai, and I represent Kazakh British Technical University, Center for Sustainable Development, or CHOC. And our efforts, our project are supported by the Science Committee of the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of Kazakhstan. This is a program target funding by this number. We're working on the global issues of the world, which is related to the current issues on the water resources that continents are drying up and sea level, ocean level is rising. And we targeted to develop more nature-based solution, how people work themselves on these issues, how they may collect water, how they produce, how may they produce electricity, and this effort based on this biotic pump strategy. So it's more nature-based solution. So this is our logo to work on promotion of these activities. And this is our very big idea. So, but we're working on small activities. And today I will represent some climate technologies innovations, what we are targeted to develop and what we learn from other countries. And these efforts are based on Kazakh President K.Zh.K Tokayev initiatives to expand and support United Nations water programs with Kazakhstan coordination of some of these programs. And this presentation is just a small part of all these activities what Kazakhstan is working on, and to be practical and to show our support of this initiative of Kazakhstan's President K.Zh.K Tokayev. So, as I mentioned before, we have a big problem on the Earth. Sea level, ocean level is rising, and many countries have problem worldwide with these issues, with ocean sea level rising issues. At the same time, continents are drying up. So this is big issues. On the one hand, we have big floods, extreme flash floods. At the same time, we have droughts. So in the same areas, same place could happen floods. At the same time, after some periods of time, could be droughts and deserts. So this is the issue, and how we may mitigate this issue. This is our work activities, and we are learning what other countries are doing, and what will be reasonable to adopt for Kazakhstan. So this is Kazakhstan. As you may see on this map, the Kazakhstan's issue that Kazakhstan is targeted to expand urbanization on several spots. It would be understandable if Kazakhstan would have small country, but Kazakhstan is huge country, and it's very difficult to understand why we use just several small spot areas, and it will be rational try to expand and to use the whole territory of Kazakhstan. And this is our research and how we may work on this issue. So currently we have big issues with Balkhash Lake. So we already created problem for Aral Sea, Aral Lake in cooperation with our neighboring countries. You may see that Aral Lake is almost disappeared. And we have currently a problem with Caspian Lake is shrinking also, and potentially Balkhash Lake also may have a big issue. As you may see, within this basin, we have a huge urbanization, and in this area we're expanding and have Almaty city and expanding with Alatau city. It's a huge urbanization. So this region, Astana, and this region could be equal, and these two areas will consume a lot of water. So potentially it may create some issues for this Balkhash Lake, and we are trying to provide some alternative how we may save Balkhash Lake and how we may expand and to use in other areas of Kazakhstan to use water resources more in East Kazakhstan within Irtysh River basin. So this is our strategy and how we may work on this issue. So you may see this is general idea what we are targeted to be more rational. So currently Kazakhstan is condensed and is trying to use water in the south of Kazakhstan and trying to get more water from our neighboring countries, from Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. But themselves, all these Central Asian countries have a problem with water resources, and we are trying to get water from them. So it's somehow it's a create problem for our neighboring countries, and also it may create difficulties for Kazakhstan. We are targeted to expand irrigation, to build many dams here in this Balkhash Lake Basin. So somehow it's just huge water consumption, and it creates huge problems. At the same time, in this area, in Irtysh River Basin, you may see we release more than 16.5 cubic kilometers of water. So it's just moving in this area. So it will be reasonable to expand investigation and work project with water resources in this area. So this is our strategy, and we're trying to convince that it will be reasonable to have more projects related to water resources in this area, on this Irtysh River Basin and this northwest of Kazakhstan, because here in the south of Kazakhstan we have difficulties with water resources, and we are somehow trying to increase urbanization and get more water. So this is somehow a complicated issue. At the same time, east of Kazakhstan may have more opportunities to use this flat water, expand some technologies in this area. So you may see that Asian Development Bank has estimated cost of the emergency in Kazakhstan related to floods issues in about $500 million. So by expanding businesses here related to water resources and how to work on disaster event, it could be some kind of win-win strategy just to get this flood water and reuse this water. This is a strategy what we are targeted to expand, and we need support, cooperation from other countries. For example, Korea worked on this type of project a lot, so it will be somehow interesting to expand cooperation with experts from Korea. And so this is Kazakhstan. You may see this Bakhturma River reservoir, so it's East Kazakhstan. So East Kazakhstan, so we have here these big mountains, Altai Mountains, and what is what is coming from this mountainous area, and ice and snow are melting, and water moves somehow to the ocean, and a lot of flood problems in this area. So it will be reasonable to somehow set up more facilities here. So we have this huge Bakhturma reservoir, and maybe it will be reasonable to have more small power stations here in this area, because water anyway is moving to the ocean. And if we put bypass small hydropower stations, chain of hydropower stations, and water may move to this Bakhturma River, and we don't have big population here, and it will be less risky comparing to this area. For example, here we're just increasing urbanization, so we're suggesting to expand here more, to have more facilities related to electricity production. And we have beautiful facilities here, Katon Karagay, and expand facilities here instead of expanding winter sport facilities in this area. We are suggesting to expand and to have winter sport facilities here, electricity production here. So just to have more facilities here, do not condense too much here. So this is strategy, and we need some companies who may have interest to work in this area in electricity production and power supply system. So it's required good cooperation with corporations and startup companies who may work in this area. So this is idea. You may see that it's a quite high elevated area, Altai area, and if we turn water in this in Bakhturma reservoirs, and it will be necessary to put a different chain of this different type of electricity production stations, and it would be nice to have bypass stations that it will not stay in across the rivers, because with climate change, a lot of uncertainties. If we have a big ice melting activities, so it will be dangerous and difficult to work with big amount of water. So we need somehow to set up some kind of flexible system. If we put bypass system from this side, and the main stream of water maybe continue to move to this Bakhturma reservoir. It will be less risky and less crash may happen with hydropower stations. So this is a strategy, and we need experts who works in these areas with such expertise, and we need experts with automation technologies, with different sensors who may work on disaster event at the same time. So this is a big issue, and at the same time it creates a big opportunity for experts who might combine these disaster event activities with business activities to produce electricity. At the same time, to keep nature, do not distract this nature, keep this facility, for example, for winter sport activities. These areas are very beautiful with high forestry activities. So we need partners, simply saying, yeah, from South Korea who maybe work with us. And this is a big project what I presented to you, and at the same time this is our small project, a very small project. We are working on very small pilot projects, and what we are facing in Kazakhstan, we have a lot of pollution. So this is pictures of Kazakhstan on river side. So you may see a lot of dumps, unauthorized dump in nearby the rivers, and we need somehow to influence on people to decrease pollution, to not dump all this stuff. And Korea is very strong in this type of activities, and Korea work efficiently with pollution and with forestry activities, and have Korea develop a lot of incentives, and we would love to learn how Korea work on this type of issues. So this is the main idea what we are trying to convince to have more this nature-based solution, and to use more forestry, and convince people to plant more trees, and to use more endemic trees. And so of course it's require a lot of technologies to look after these trees, automation, irrigate, so water supply system for at the beginning at least. And in Kazakhstan, we're trying to put everything in beton. Usually, if we have this type of situation, usually we try to dig it with bulldozer and put this type of area in beton, and supply water to some areas. But at the same time, nature-based solutions are not used, like contour strip organization of the land and planting trees. I don't know, it's not so strong. We don't use soil as sponges accumulation for moisture and water. So it will be reasonable to expand it, and Korea doing a lot in this type of areas. And we would love to learn how Korea doing all this stuff. And also we learn from Canada how Canada use birthplace forestry promotional activities, that people are involved from the childbirth, how to grow these trees, parents and children involved in these activities from the childhood. So this was very interesting activities, and we thought, let's just try to adapt it here in Kazakhstan. So this is our effort, what we're trying to adapt. And also we are trying to connect it to gift card system. So usually when we have a birth in Kazakhstan, we make a big party celebration, and when baby just grow up, and when baby has 1 year or 5 years old, and we have party usually. We eat a lot and make party, and we don't have this type of tradition to give gift cards related to the forestry activities. There should be some kind of present, and of course it requires some technologies, tracking system, and so on. And Korea is very strong in all these technologies, so it will be interesting to learn, and maybe expand to have some startup together, and some kind of just expand this type of parks in Kazakhstan, and to have Korea Kazakhstan parks, or some kind of combination of different electricity production, this type of park activities. And in Kazakhstan, we used mostly big meteorological investigation activities with Khas Hydromet. We study big water cycle, about 3 months activities. At the same time, we are not strong in small water cycles, very small water cycles in for example, 8-day small cycles and with small sensors for small areas, small house, small farmers, and Korea is very strong in all these activities for very small activities, very small meteorology station, small investigation. So we need to adapt small activities and to learn how small in small areas something may happen and something may change. And we need for these activities partnership with Korean experts. So this is example from Slovakia, for example. They also have these small activities and they improve quality of soil when they have these very small facilities. And you may see no water here, but when they just after several years, this soil may work as sponges and hydrology of this area is improved and water is coming. You see, this is general idea. So approximately 5 years is taking to get water. And this effort is related to this methodology of biotic pump, that trees are rainmakers. So if we plant endemic trees, local trees, and these trees get big, and this evapotranspiration work start to work, and these big trees work as a machine which attracts clouds, like attracts, and trees eventually makes rain. So it's like cation anion. It's like magnet, plus minus. It attracts clouds, and some precipitation may happen. So this is a general idea what we are trying to expand in Kazakhstan, and for this purpose, of course, we need different type of expert with different sensors tracking how precipitation and how humidity moves and capacity of each tree. So Korea very strong in this stuff. So eventually, if we expand this effort through whole Kazakhstan. Currently, we have this situation that clouds mostly moves to the mountainous area, and we have ice and glacier in mountainous area, and most of the rivers are fed by the glaciers melting activities in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. But if we start to plant more local trees, more endemic trees, eventually these clouds may move together with the trees. So simply these trees, forest trees, attract clouds. So this is our strategy, what we are hoping to expand based on this biotic pump strategy. And if we convince more people, more villages, more towns to plant more trees, you may see. So this is small yellow balls. It's like cation anion. It's attraction of the clouds. So we have more localized trees. And if we set up facilities along the rivers, which are shrinking, are dying now, so we may restore, and we may have more water in the soil, and we'll eventually we will have a good balance of the water resources and trees in Kazakhstan. So this is simplified vision, this diagram. So this is situation in most of the cities and villages in towns in Kazakhstan, where we have used a lot of asphalt, beton, and we don't have proper connection of surface water and underground water, no filtration of the water. So, but if we plant more trees along the river sides, and we may have this situation, simply saying water attracts water, and trees attracts these clouds, and could be more rational balance. It could be rational filtration of the water through good connection of hydrology with hydrogeology. So it will be good balance. But here we don't have this situation. So eventually, if we work in this area and if we expand this strategy all over the Kazakhstan, potentially we may have this situation. So clouds may be staying with forestry, with trees. And this type of strategy would be reasonable to expand on the areas where we have clouds. And usually clouds are nearby these mountainous areas and here nearby these rivers. So we had forest fires here, so it will be reasonable to restore these forest areas and move from the edges of the Kazakhstan. So here we have several rivers. Here also Caspian lake is dying. So, but if we plant and may have this strategy, plant more trees from this side and moves to the center of Kazakhstan. Currently, we are trying to plant more trees mostly in the center, in desert area, but it's very difficult to get water, to get clouds, because we are getting more underground water. But when underground water is going down, it will be good for root system of the trees to get this underground water, and it will be difficult to set up this evapotranspiration system. So by using this strategy, if we plant more trees from the edges of Kazakhstan, eventually in some years, situation in Kazakhstan may be improved, and this biotic pump system will move to the center of Kazakhstan. So hopefully in some years, in dozens of years, we may have a better situation, and we may have better balance of water resources all over the Kazakhstan. And of course, it's huge dream. It's a very big dream, and it takes a long years. But currently, we work on very small project on the very small area. So as I mentioned, in Balkhash Lake, we have this situation that we are trying to get more water from the upstream of the Balkhash basin. In here, Almaty, Alatau. So potentially, it's very risky for Balkhash Lake if we consume a lot of water. So water may have difficulties to go to Balkhash Lake from this Ili River, which supplies 70% of the water to Balkhash Lake. So it will be a complicated situation. So this is why we're trying to convince to have small facilities. At least if we restore small rivers, it will supply some water to Balkhash Lake. So this is strategy, and we are restoring water. We're targeted to restore water for these rivers, small rivers in Mukanchi, nearby Koksu Polytechnical College, because it's very complicated to convince to use this approach, because some companies are building dozens of different dams on these rivers, and we are trying to convince, let's use more nature-based solution, and let's pollute less this small rivers. So you may see here in these small areas, in small river, Mukanchi River, we have a lot of unauthorized polluted areas, and we're trying to convince this several villages and convince them to plant more trees and create this newborn birthplace park facilities. Yeah, this is strategy. So eventually, hopefully we will have this type of situations that on both sides of the rivers will have forestry parks, and we'll have more trees, and more water would be in this river, and some water eventually may reach Balkhash Lake. So if we put this type of pilot areas, and if we convince other people in Kazakhstan to use same stuff, it will be helpful for the Balkhash Lake to survive, and some water will reach eventually Balkhash Lake. And it will be good for people here also. And it will be good for the environment, it will be good for children, and it will be good for parents. This is our strategy, what we are trying to hope, what we are trying, and we hope to develop in Kazakhstan. And for this purpose, it will be good to learn how Korea is working in other countries. I was in Mongolia. I saw this project. I was, just I liked very much how Korea worked in Mongolia. So we need to learn from Mongolia how they work with Korea. And so this type of technologies, they use a lot of sprinkler and drip irrigation technologies, and a lot of sensors, and some experts how to plant, how to localize, and how to use a combination of mixture of Korean expertise and Mongolian reality, how they work on this type of project. So thank you very much. Let's work on this issue, and let's expand cooperation in climate technologies and innovations. Thank you very much.